Second.
Motion by Bell, second by Duffy. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
No, we gotta take a roll call. Okay, so Baker,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Berto,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Nino,
Yes.
and Zashki.
Yes. Okay, it's 6:19 PM. We are back in open session. The board has decided to make no formal motions at this time. We will progress to item number 5, discussion regarding the recommendation from the Plan Commission that the development agreement between the Village of Sister Bay and Pebble Beach Development for the Cove, which residential condominium development will be constructed on parcel numbers 181230001 and 181230002A and 1810006312832B that have been assigned addresses of 10607 Little Sister Road, 10611 Little Sister Road, and 10620 Little Sister Road be approved as presented. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the Plan Commission and approve the development agreement amended to remove section 32 force majeure.
And I'm going to second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 6, discussion regarding the recommendation from the Plan Commission that the village board pass and adopt resolution number 290 that grants Lance and Bridget Crane's request for a conditional use permit that will allow the residential condominium project that will be known as the Cove to be constructed on the property located at 10607 Little Sister Road, 10611 Little Sister Road, and 10620 Little Sister Road. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Any discussion? Do we have a motion to accept the recommendation from the Plan Commission?
I'll make
I'll
that
make
motion, Rob.
Second.
Motion by Baker, second by Duffy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7, discussion regarding the recommendation from the Plan Commission that the village board approve the development agreement for the Door County Medical Center Sister Bay Clinic that will be constructed on parcel number 1810008312812K1. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Denise?
I'd like to have a short conversation with the board members about the development agreement. I realize that Plan Commission did move it forward for our consideration. Nate and I did vote no on it pertaining to the lighting plan. There are 11 lamp posts in the proposed project with 26 bulbs on those 11 lamp posts. And the lumens per lamp are 16,142. When the building is closed, they will go down to 50% power. And there is motion detection on them, and they will come back on to 100% power, I think for 15 minutes, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure. And then go back down to 50%. The poles are only 20 feet tall, much lighter than the scanned light trespass and stadium feel that light reflects. There is a photometric plan in the packet that showed that light trespass will not go beyond the borders of the property. That was not my particular concern. It was just, do we really want to highlight a parking lot that much all night long? And so I pose that question to the village board. Nate and I both realized that there is, to a certain degree, some security issues with a pharmacy in there. But with the amount of lamp posts and the lights and the lumens, and even if you're going to 50% power, you're still talking about per lamp, 8,000 lumens. Some have 3 on them, some have 4 on them. And it does meet the dark skies criteria because they are all pointed downward. So that is also not an issue. It's just highlighting that much space of a parking lot that I am not in favor of.
My question was, can we get that 50% adjusted down as well? 16,000 lumens is a tremendous amount of light. And I do acknowledge you need it around the building, but I don't know that you need it out in the parking lot as much, because I don't know that the security issue pertaining to the pharmacy is going to be at the edges of the parking lot. It's going to be immediately around the building. But ultimately, what I wanted to know is, can that be adjusted down from 50% to some lesser number? At some point, LED lights do not function at a low dimming level, but I don't know how that works. And that's a question I had asked, and because we approved it, we didn't get an answer.
And I would just share with my fellow board members who were not a part of Zoom on those plan commission meetings. I was in support of the lighting as detailed, and further, I think, contrary to Denise and Nate, I think an open mind needs to be kept moving forward, that situations may deem us to consider even more lighting in there or not dimming down to 50%. I think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that this is going to be a magnet for attention from people similar to those who decided to break into the pharmacy in town, going after prescription narcotics that are required by operations to be kept there. With the case history that we have in the village of those criminal efforts, I think at least keeping the lights the way proposed is minimum at this point to be safe rather than sorry, starting out what we want to be a dynamic and completely positive facility for the community.
And Rob, that was reducing it by 50% at night?
Yeah. And I'm fine with that, to move forward and see how it goes. And I think we have to be of an open mind to say, if it's deemed that that's not enough of a protectant and a safety feature, that, maybe we need to, hopefully we don't have to, but for now, I think, it's worth going with that dimming to 50% and seeing where it goes.
Thank you.
I guess I'd like to push back on the keeping an open mind thing. I don't think that that's a very fair criticism of this. I mean, you may see it differently, Rob, but I don't think this is an open mind issue. I think it's just seeing it from a different perspective, which I would encourage you to do as well, to think about it from some perspective other than your own. But I do disagree with your open mind statement.
Yeah, and I understand where you're, taking exception to that word choice, Nate. I get your position.
Okay. I also would say I love everything else about it, especially the bike rack. Brian, thank you.
You're welcome, Nate. And I didn't know if we're supposed to comment on any of these questions or not. So certainly if you want our comment, just let me know.
I personally would.
Sure, we welcome your comments.
Thank you, Rob. So I'm Brian Stevens. I'm the CEO of Door County Medical Center, and we certainly appreciate the village working with us on this project. We're really excited about the project. In terms of the lighting, you know, unfortunately, I'm not qualified to know much in terms of what that level of lighting will present as. I just don't have a sense of what we're reading on paper, what that's really going to look like once it's up. We do have Michael Crawford, one of our architects on, and I'm not sure, Michael, if you have any details on that, or if you know if it can be reduced further from 50% down. But I mean, what I'll say is, you know, we definitely want to work with you, and we want to have something there that's reasonable in terms of both security and in terms of aesthetics, and we're not trying to create light pollution or anything like that. So, you know, if there's changes that we can make as we're constructing the facility so that it's more palatable for everyone involved, we're happy to look into those. If there are changes that we can make once it's constructed and the light is actually there and we can see what it looks like, we're happy to work with you after the fact too. So just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm much more comfortable with that, knowing that.
I guess the one question I had, and I understand, Brian, you're not going to have to answer this. I don't expect you to, but one of the fundamental questions I had is this an adjustable setting? Because if it is, this is a really easy thing to figure out later on. If this is a hardware issue, then it's kind of a long-term decision, you know, that's happening now, but we don't know that, and I wouldn't expect you to go based on the recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve it. I wouldn't think you'd go and see try and figure out that answer.
Michael Crawford, are you on? Do you have any insight into whether or not the reduction down to 50% is adjustable, or if that's like a permanent setting?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I was just herding dogs here. My understand, the short answer is I'm not certain. I believe it can be adjusted, but I think we have to acknowledge the sort of good faith effort we're presenting to work with the village as a whole to make sure that safety concerns are met while not overlighting and bringing additional attention to a parking lot in the after hours when it's not necessary. I don't see that Grafe is on here, our electrical engineer, but I can confirm with them and get with the board to see if anything can be done to, if it has, you know, for lack of a better word, dimming capability, so lower power during nighttime can be performed. I would just hesitate us going below state recommended standards for safety somewhat arbitrarily based on the perceived appearance of too much light. So we enter into a very, not unregulated, but it's somewhat arbitrary in its application to what people are wanting out of this project. So I will qualify that with just saying I can consult with Grafe, see if it can be adjusted down, see what that possibility is. And believe me, no one in this project is interested in creating any sort of a stadium effect out of this project in the evening hours when the use is just not there. So I think Brian said it great. We're community partners and we want what's best for the community. And I can follow up with them and return to you all a response on that. And if it's feasible, we can do it.
I guess one thing I would just want to point out there, and I don't want to be argumentative, I just want to point this out, is what we're talking about is having a reduction in light when nobody's in the parking lot. So I don't think that when the parking lot is unoccupied, that doesn't seem like a safety issue. And actually, I would say that I applaud your use of these intelligent lights, because the reality is if a light starts to light up brightly, it's going to startle somebody that is trying to do some sort of nefarious activity in the dark. So I actually think that this probably has a greater security impact because it is going to dim. I just would like to see it dimmed as much as feasibly possible. So I get that DC Medical is definitely trying to be a very agreeable, community-centric partner, and that is very apparent on the dealings that I've had with you guys on Plan Commission. It's been very night and day versus other projects that have come up in the similar time frame. So you guys are definitely showing that very well, and I don't think that anybody would disagree with that you're being very community-oriented and very good partners.
Michael and Brian, we thank you for your comments.
Absolutely.
We have had significant discussion on what was brought as a recommendation from the Plan Commission.
And we will respond with detail when we can consult with the engineer. So you'll have that on record.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Regarding item 7 in specific, and the recommendation from the Plan Commission that the village board approve the development agreement for the Door County Medical Center Sister Bay Clinic, do we have a motion to accept the recommendation from the Plan Commission?
I move that we accept the recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Nino, second by Duffy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
So was that all ayes?
Yes.
Yes.
Brian's very persuasive.
Thank you, Nate, and thank you, everyone on the board. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 8, discussion regarding the request from representatives of Mosaic Development LLC that because a regular monthly meeting of the Plan Commission will not be conducted in December, and because time constraint issues will come into play, the village board conditionally approve a certified survey map or CSM that will split parcel number 181510002A into 3 lots. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Any discussion?
Plan Commission reviewed this. It's just that there's not or somebody's reviewed it, or we feel good about it.
We're having the public hearing at our January meeting, Pat.
Okay.
Which is after the board meeting. And so it's pretty much a slam dunk. There's nothing wrong with the 3 separate parcels. We gave approval for the project on, I think it was lot number 2, the 4.9 acres at last week's meeting. So things are moving forward. It was just trying to help it along. And basically it's, if the board approves it conditionally, that all goes well at the Plan Commission, public hearing, and Plan Commission approves it, then it's a whole month or not having another special meeting to move this along.
Okay.
So this would be pending Planning Commission's approval,
And the public hearing, yes.
the public hearing, yes. Well, I'll make that motion then.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 9, discussion regarding the terms and provisions of ordinance number 291-121-421, which allows poll workers in the village of Sister Bay to work split shifts during elections. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Heidi?
This ordinance is to ensure that we are complying with statute and which requires a formal ordinance to allow poll workers to work a half-day shift. 15 hours is a long day for anyone, and our poll workers are mostly retired and elderly individuals. So this is just to help ease the burden on them, and I will be the only one working that 15+ hour day.
So moved.
Yep.
We
I'll
skip
second, so
item
long as we
number,
give Heidi a late arrival the next day.
yeah. Did we skip item number 9, or are they combined?
The agenda was amended, Vivian, so that was
Oh,
moved
okay.
to the bottom.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've got the old, I'm sorry.
You're
I
fine,
didn't get
Vivian.
through.
That's okay. We've got a motion by Berto, a
I
second.
do
by
want to say
Duffy.
something here, that I appreciate all the election officials, and they're the backbone of what makes democracy possible. And we should give them whatever flexibility we can. And thank you, Heidi, and thank you for leading that group of people.
Thanks.
Well said.
Thank you, Nate.
That's it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 10, discussion regarding the recommendation from the Parks, Properties and Streets Committee that the village board authorize the addition of 951 feet of sidewalk, curb and gutter and stormwater improvements along Mill Road from the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Fire Station to the intersection with Woodcrest Road. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. And we've got our Director of Public Works with us. If anyone has any questions related to discussion.
Well, I'm in support of the project, so I'll make the motion to approve it.
Second,
Motion by Duffy, second by Baker. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11, discussion regarding and review of the 2021 pavement rating results for the village's streets and review of staff recommendations as to which streets are most in need of repair. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. And we've still got Dan Klansky with us for any questions and discussion.
Are there any questions on that? I guess the big thing I had Heidi send out, I mean, we are very, very highly traveled area. We have a lot of roads. If you look at that Whistler map that need work. So I will continue to bring some projects forward. I'm going to get the information on Woodcrest that was requested. And I just want to get some stuff hopefully by this summer. So the following year we can apply. There's a couple of tourism grants out there. There's stuff that I need to have ready for you to approve so we can go forward and try to get some additional funding. Plus all the roads that I have in the 5-year plan are fairly low rated roads. So we do really need to do the work on them.
I have one. Oh, go ahead, Nate. Go ahead.
Does it, I mean, I hate to use this term, but it's what's commonly used there. Does it pay to have a recreation plan in place to help get some of these grants? I don't like the term recreation because it is legitimately transportation, but I think that that's what it's commonly called. Would that assist in getting grants?
Is Diane, can you hear? I know there are a couple of tourism things and I believe they fall TAP grants and there is a EDA grant going forward that are involved in, I guess, tourism dollars. So it would kind of fall into that.
Well, and I am, so this is Diane. I did, actually today I was looking through some of the plans with Sister Bay and I was going to be bringing a recommendation forward in my next administrator's report for the next week that the village update your comprehensive outdoor rec plan because it may not provide, I'm not familiar with some of the road projects that the village has coming up, but there are different grant programs that do require that whatever the grant or the project that's being applied for, that it be in the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. So there's a lot of funding programs out there that will not fund things unless it's in the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. So I know that the village of Sister Bays was through 2018 and then it was extended by resolution until 2021. But that really should be updated. And now that you are looking at membership in Bay Lake RPC, they may do that work.
Okay. And again, I understand that's what that's called, but I would encourage everybody here to realize that it is transportation. It's just another form of it. This, whatever we have to call it to get grant money, I'm fine with.
I've got one clarification, if you could make it, Dan.
Yes.
Regarding the rating results that were included in the packet. Is that a fluid list that whether it be trustees, parks committee, however it would happen throughout the course of working on it, that, you know, we can, as we move forward, decide how to prioritize on that list? Or is it, are we looking at specific
Yes.
rankings in any way that have to be followed?
You try to address your lowest rankings. That's why I included that Whistler map. We got a lot of yellow on there. You don't want that much yellow. But some of those roads have very low traffic counts, and some of those, maybe we do a wedge, we do a patch. I mean, each one, we can get a plan written up, or I can get a plan written up. We can review it and see what's appropriate, to get the most bang for your buck. What are your heavily trafficked areas? What do you want to do? So it is definitely fluid, and it's the biggest thing that I really wanted to stress in all this. I had to put this list together right away to get into the county program this year, but now we have 18 months. But in these 18 months, I want to have 2 or 3 road plans approved by the board, so we can go forward and just keep moving forward. There's so many projects as I drive around and look at stuff that there's a lot of work to be done. That's all I really want to stress is we just need to, I'll be super happy to get mill done this year. We need to just keep it moving forward.
Okay. I think this is the value that Dan brings in his position, to have this foresight here. So I look forward to the leadership that you're providing and that you're desperately trying to catch up on that hasn't been there over the years. And it's going to be a rough first year, but after that, I'm sure you'll keep the hopper loaded up, and we'll keep moving smoothly.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Whatever he needs, we should give it to him.
I'm not going to say that much, Pat. That kind of surprises me. You'd say that we should give him whatever. Hold on, are you Pat Duffy over there? I'm not sure.
Yep.
I heard Pat was making a New Year's resolution early this year, but now I believe it.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to text Miles at the Pulse right now and get him that quote.
Dan, if I were you, I would put in for a raise.
Okay.
So,
Pat would probably vote against it, though.
Okay.
do we have a motion to accept the recommendation regarding the review of the pavement rating results?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Dan, for your continued leadership on this. It's much appreciated. Item number 12, discussion regarding the proposal from Talon's Construction in the amount of $91,309 to replace the siding on the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Fire Station. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha.
Hi.
Hi.
So it's staff's recommendation that we accept this proposal from Teelan's Construction. We've been working with Teelan's for a number of years, and we've had several proposals from them. This is the most recent one. Prices have obviously gone up quite a bit. We had budgeted for a replacement of about $85,000. The proposal came in at $91,309. So we're a little bit over budget here. What I would say is that in the general government expenditures section of the budget, we have budgeted for significant salary and benefits for an administrator that we don't currently have. And I believe we can repurpose or reallocate those funds to cover this overage and to get this done. What we have going on at the fire station is leaking siding and water damage that's occurring kind of throughout the fire station due to some, I guess, poor quality siding or siding that's had issues. I know that Chris can go into far more depth than I can about it, but this is the information I guess I can give you. It's something that's been talked about a number of times.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
you,
you.
Tasha. Item number 13, discussion regarding the draft of an ordinance that addresses short-term rentals of dwellings in the village of Sister Bay and a related short-term rental license application. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. There was excellent materials in the packet on this. Denise?
Good job, Denise.
Oh, thank you. Because, I love hard copies. I was I think something got lost in the original one that I wrote and what was presented. There are quite a few things that are not included in what was in our board packet tonight. And I don't know, Heidi, if Bo did something, if some of this was deleted on purpose, but I went back to the SharePoint drive where I was working on it and then kind of did a side-by-side thing. Some of it's basically is minor. There's a couple major things in my mind that are missing. So do you have any idea?
I don't know what might have happened. I know when you were first working on it, after I retyped it initially and then I gave it back to Bo, I didn't see it for a long time. So I don't know if something got shifted at that point, but if you want to let me know where there are omissions, I can certainly make notes.
Okay, well, I guess before I go through that, I would want to give the board the opportunity to ask questions on what was presented and have that conversation before I clutter up discussion.
Well, one comment I have is I heard some other municipality recently has a clause in their license, and maybe it's in here and I'm not seeing it, is that if any individual rental gets 3 police reports for disturbances, that's strike 3, you forfeit your short-term rental license.
That's an excellent addition. I like that very much.
Yeah. And then it's a police record. So the police come and either it's an issue or it's not an issue. But if it is, and you got 3 documented police reports, then there's a problem that the owners aren't taking care of.
Sure.
I just realized I do have a lovely hard copy of this, Denise, that I printed out months ago and went over and made notes on, and then I remembered where it was. So I ran off to get it. And I was actually talking to Chad about it quite some time ago. One of the things he had about there is a verified complaint, which I think is exactly what you're saying with a police report, because you can't just have a neighbor say they're making noise.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
Well, that's kind of in there. I'm looking at page 234, item number 4 at the top. Suspend, revoke, reject, or non-renewal of short-term license.
Okay.
Fail to comply, I thought it was
2 or more separate occasions.
4 more separate occasions, yep, in 12 months.
Okay.
I have a question, Denise.
That was one of the, can I hang
Yeah,
on
go
1
ahead,
second?
go ahead,
That was
go
one of the things that I was going to address because I had that as a separate, I had that as like letter A, that if there were 2 or more separate occasions within the last 12 months that there was a violation, but it was added to, B, who has been convicted or who's resident agent or renters. Those should not be together. They are 2 very separate things. That you can be in violation, which has nothing to do with illegal activity. So just while we were on that was one of the issues that I wanted to bring up, that is not correct, or at least not the way I wrote it.
Yeah, and I would agree too. It that convicted of illegal is different from a police report saying, hey, there's an issue, as opposed to going through a court process and being convicted, and I'd be okay with 3 in 12 months if it's not the convicted, but as long as there's something and we're, I think that's good.
Okay.
I guess we need to make sure that it's not just somebody that's getting their nose bent out of shape. I actually, many years ago, and I think it actually, when Ryan Hill was on the plan commission, Denise,
Oh, yeah.
sparked some noise complaints from my backyard neighbor because we were sitting on our deck talking and it was quite late at night. But there was the police came over and they certainly wrote a report, but it was the next morning. So I guess I want to make sure that it's really a legitimate thing and not just somebody complaining about it. I don't know what the policy is for the sheriff's department on writing up a report, if they simply go out there or not. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it if there's an issue, but we shouldn't make it so the neighbor has veto power just because they don't like it. And I don't know how to make sure that's the case, but that's what my goal would be in that language.
Yeah.
And I'm
So-
sure that maybe we could contact, Bob City or something and have a conversation with him and find out how they deal with situations like that. And it's fine if they write a report, but just because they write a report, was there truly, was it really a noise issue or just they wrote a report because they were there?
Mhm.
So who deals with compliance on all of this? I know, doesn't Sevastopol, didn't they hire a outside organization to
I
do that?
think-
And are we looking to
think
do that?
They and Liberty Grove possibly both hired the same company called Grancias, which I have not dove into that company, their fees or anything else. I'm just kind of starting to see how this was going to be received, how we shape it. Certainly that can be a follow-up if the board thinks that this is a good idea and needs some tweaking and we continue to move it forward. Because I think that was Heidi's question also. I think she might have been a little afraid that all the phone calls were going to come to her desk.
And they will, even if you have a public hearing and people weigh in, they're still gonna call me. If I could reduce that 112 by half, that would be huge.
I have a question on the fee, the license fee.
Okay.
Considering how rapidly and expansively this turn a home into a short-term rental continues to catapult down the road. And considering even, the heightened interest, people calling, inquiring, about homes for sale that could be turned into a short-term rental. This is such a moneymaker for virtually all the people getting involved in it. Why wouldn't we want to charge a higher fee? When you look at the amount of revenue that's being generated through these short-term rentals, which is, and as we know, if you just take the last 15, 20 years, the amount of money that this generates has been significant enough for one to significantly reduce the number of homes being made available on an annual lease basis that would help have retained some workforce housing, because we've seen so many of those shift into the lucrative nature of the short-term rental that continues to win out in that real estate marketplace. It just makes, to my mind, it makes that fee low. And I don't know if the fee was twice as much, would that really stop somebody from, turning a home into a short-term rental? Would that really, do we have a vast number of people getting into the business of short-term rental home ownership in the village where a $500 or $1,000 application fee would affect who enters the process?
I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the goal of this fee? What are we going to do with this money? What do we want? Do we want to stop it? I'm not saying that we that your goal isn't valid, Rob. I'm just saying we should know what our intention is here. I think if we're going to take and collect money for this fee, I think this has got to go to attainable housing. That's the only reason that the government shouldn't just gather money to gather money because it can. It should do it because it has the public's interest in mind. And if that's what we're trying to counteract, I think that's where the money's got to go. Otherwise, if we're just collecting it and putting it, so trying to retard growth with this, I don't think that's going to do much.
Well, maybe we should look into this host compliance service to understand what the costs are and make sure that the fee for the license covers that as a starter. But then I think you have to work in time. Somebody's going to get a call to say, I want this, and then somebody's got to check it and somebody's got to process the check. And I mean, I don't know what kind of analysis we've done on what are the costs.
I can tell you what Sevastopol is paying. I went back and looked at some of their meeting minutes. Because they are using Granicus as their compliance officer, they are paying $192 per unit, which I'm assuming means the rental, to Granicus for their service. So then they based their fee on that. They also looked at a town in Rome, which is similar in size to Sevastopol. So in their minutes, Rome is charging $275 plus a required $300 conditional use permit to the applicants. And then later on, it said that they paid their compliance person an initial setup fee of about $28,000.
So Sevastopol didn't mention anything about an initial setup fee.
No, not that I found in their minutes. They proposed an initial application fee of $500 and a renewal fee of $350, just so that they're covering their costs for paying Granicus for doing all of that work.
Sure.
And then Amy's time to take the application and issue the license.
Okay.
And I would just, Nate, I think that was a very keen point you made. And I would just clarify, my opinion is not in any way punitive or to be a punishment or to negate or support anything else. It comes from, for instance, it's influenced by recently, many of us are aware, the process we've gone through in terms of raising fees for usage of the parks for certain endeavors, and how those fees have, not just by our own work and research and thought, but supported by, business people in the community as well, saying, that it would be fair for that to be a lot higher. And that's, that's where I'm coming from is if the Village of Sister Bay is offering a homeowner a significant financial opportunity with a short-term rental program, that it would seem like the fee could be higher to me.
I guess what I would say there is, I hear what you're saying, Rob, mostly, I believe, but because we can charge a fee, I think I think that this is having, and it's not the entire problem. It is absolutely not the entire problem. It's more of a symptom, but it is causing issues at attainable housing. I mean, if you look at some of the recent sales that have gone around in our neighborhood, Rob, it's insane. You have people selling houses for over 200% of assessed value in less than a week.
I don't disagree with you at all, Nate. I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying, to me, it's, yes, I agree with you, but just from a simple matter of, business, it just seems like we are, with whatever we would choose to use that money received from the fees for, we're shortchanging the village with a fee that low.
I guess I'm not looking at the village residents and the lack thereof of people that are going to be working and living in the village. That's the big crisis I see looming for Sister Bay and all the northern Door County. And that's why if we are going to collect this money, which probably has to be a fairly sizable fee for it to make sense, for it to actually bring in revenue, I think we need to have it address the issue that it is part of. And the other thing that short-term rentals do is they also put in, exacerbate the burden on other services up here. And they're also causing people to have to come in from further away to do the servicing of the short-term rentals, because most of these short-term rentals are not managed by the owners of the buildings, the houses.
If we want to discourage more and more of this, I think if you paid attention to the pushback when Sebastopol initially proposed theirs, the people, the owners, the people who were doing the short-term rentals, their biggest issue was the limiting the length of stay. So that would be the better way to discourage more and more of them, would be to limit the length of stay, to say
That's
anywhere from 3 to 7 days.
That brings up a very interesting point, Vivian, that I've done some reading on and some research on, is the type of visitor that stays for 2 days is very intense on certain amenities in the county. They will go and do a couple things on those 2 days, where somebody that is there for 5 days or 7 days, they're not exactly a stakeholder, but they're more of a stakeholder, and they're going to see more things and they're going to do more diverse activities, because somebody doesn't do the same thing typically. Not everyone, I'm sure some people do, but most people don't do the same thing every day for 7 days. So there is some benefit to having that length of stay extended out, because it does change the type of traveler and tourist, and also how they use the infrastructure and resources that Door County has. So there's a benefit to that. I'm not entirely sold on it, but it's certainly something that's worth mentioning. I think it would be, when we see how it actually would be applied, I would hold judgment for that.
I think by state statute, if I remember correctly, you can limit length of stays for 9 days and under, but not over. If I'm,
I thought it was 7, but I don't know. But we weren't, I can't imagine saying 9. 7 would
Right.
be a lot.
well, what state statute, why they chose that, who knows? But if I remember correctly. Okay, so we can do some research.
Just make a comment, Denise, or Rob, on behalf
Sure, Mary
of the
Kay.
Door County. I serve as a
Welcome your
director. Oh, sorry. I serve as a director for the Door County Board of Realtors, and there were some comments made that I found a little bit alarming. We are as concerned about the housing shortage as anyone else. We are appalled with what is going on in our market. We are shocked when we list something for $399,000 and it sells for $600,000. That appears to be out of our control right now. We have been addressed by other municipalities to comment on the situation. So I am just commenting just blanketly what we've said. We are doing what we can, but the market has outpaced anything we have seen and anything that we can control right now. And it's unfortunate. I never thought that I'd be saying, I wish we had more $500,000 homes in Door County. We don't have any $500,000 homes in Door County. The price point is now $600,000 to $1 million and still rising. So I don't know where that can go. We are alarmed. I think you should collect as much money as you possibly can from the get-go on this. And then the only other thing that I'll mention in regards to this topic is anyone who calls dispatch and an officer is dispatched, they are required to file a report on that. But mostly this is the realtors. Please don't blame the realtors. We're not trying to do this in any way, shape, or form. People call us at 2 a.m. for things that, they see that aren't even available. It's crazy.
And Mary Kay, thank you for your comments. And it's accurate to say that a big force in what's driving that market is people intending from the get-go, when they overpay a listing,
to do a short-term rental, correct?
Rob, you are correct. And
Right.
it is my position and the position of many of my colleagues that when people talk about short-term rental, the first thing we do is point them to the Door County Tourism Zone. The second thing is tell them about municipalities that have or are discussing stricter short-term transient rental policies. And we also talk about oversaturation. We all feel that there are too many short-term transients on the market right now. And we, meaning the Wisconsin Association, for communities like this, the crash could be really, really big, similar to what we saw 2008 to 2014, 15, where people just walked away from homes. And that's in the back of our heads. So we are telling people, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. This is a lot of hard work. You might not be able to find cleaner. You might not be able to find a landscaper, a caretaker. So, you know, you have to take this very seriously. Those of us who have been doing this for a long time, we've seen cycles like this, and it is scary.
I really appreciate your comments, Mary Kay. And as an example with Mary Kay's numeric she offered, you know, where you have a $399,000 listing sell for 600. That's where I'm coming from in saying, you know, if somebody can afford to walk in and overpay a listing like that because they want to do a short-term rental, they can afford to pay $2,500 for a license.
I
Okay,
still
we'll
don't
do some
fundamentally-
research and come up with that,
Yeah.
a proposal. How's
Okay.
that?
So I've got one more question for you. I just, while we were talking here, Googled the short-term license fees. And there's a town in New York that apparently has limited the number of licenses to 400. And it says the prior year they had 822.
So Pat, the important part of what you just said is
Yep.
New York.
New York.
So
Wisconsin, we cannot do that.
okay, got it.
Unless we lobby for that. No, I'm kidding.
We should lobby for it. We should absolutely push Joel Kitchens and Andre Jacques to figure out that this is a huge problem in our community.
Okay.
I don't think they know how big of an issue it is.
So do we have consensus that discussion has yielded some ways that we will move forward with refining the draft on this?
Sure, I would just like to go over, not in detail, just some of the things that were missing out of here.
Sure.
Some are definitions. I won't go into that. In part of the license procedure, an STR license shall include a copy of the annual inspection report as required by DATCAP. That was missing, and I think that's an important thing, that these need to be inspected on an annual basis by DATCAP.
I have a note, and this is like from, I think, July, that there's not an inspection that's done by DATCAP. But that's an old note, and I was talking to Chad about it a long time ago. That'd be worth asking.
Okay. All right, I will notate that.
But
But I
DATCAP
believe-
does issue rooming house licenses.
They issue the permit, but they don't inspect annually, I believe is what it was.
Okay.
Right, the annual inspection report.
But it's
Yep.
just an annual permit, not an inspection.
There
That's-
are supposed to be inspections by somebody then, so maybe DATCAP is I'll look into that. Thank you,
Okay.
Nate.
Mhm.
I also had in the application and permit process that each rental must register with the state of Wisconsin as a business and receive a BTR, which is a business tax registration number. It's a $10 fee every 2 years.
What is the benefit of doing that? And like so I've got a note on here that says that what is the benefit of doing that? And the agent that's remitting this is going to have a BTR.
But maybe not an individual.
What is the benefit of having the BTR for each unit versus just having the remitter?
I don't know. Good question.
And these are dangerous questions because they're they're a few months old.
Okay. All right, I'll write, talk to Nate about and research. Something else that was missing is each rental application will be shared with the Village of Sister Bay's assessor for personal property assessment. If they are running a business, they should be paying personal property just like any other business.
I had some notes from Chad saying like that there were some concerns about how the IRS would deal with this, but I can't remember what that was about.
I personally did not, I don't think I made that one up. I mean, I did do a lot of research. Heidi printed out a bunch for me that I, pilfered from, plus did some of my own research. And granted, if we get to the point that we're good with this, obviously we will give it to either Jeff Sanders or the other zoning attorney or whatever, who's ever appropriate to look at. There was also missing, all STRs must follow state and federal anti-discrimination regulations and APA compliance, which all hotels and motels must do, but is usually not part of an STR. And also unhosted STRs, meaning that, if I wanted to rent out a couple of bedrooms while I'm still here, that's a hosted STR. If it's somebody who has another home elsewhere and they just rent out the whole thing, an unhosted STR shall be categorized as public accommodations under Title 2 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which also hotels and motels have to deal with. So I'm trying to, because basically what Act 67, 69, whichever one, pertains to this that the legislature pushed through, is that they are allowing commercial activity in residential districts and trying to even the playing field so that everything is fair and equal. So I think those were kind of the big ones. I did have a question for Heidi. I had originally, you have to notify people within 300 feet. It was changed to 200. Do you know why that was?
No, in fact, everything you've mentioned so far, I don't recall seeing in the draft that I saw initially. So.
Okay, all right.
Is it possible this went to Randy for review and got edited at some point?
No.
Okay.
No. Because I figured that the 300 feet is for blasting, it's for CSMs, it's a standard radius that we currently have and that we would stick with that. So, okay. I will work with Heidi then on updating what is missing and then bring it back at our January meeting.
Denise, I didn't think I saw a phone line in here, and I'm going to come out against having a phone line requirement. I just don't agree with that.
It wasn't.
I think you pulled it from there, but I'm saying if you want to put it back in,
No, I read it in there today. It is in there. I don't.
It just has to do with communication, I thought, didn't
Well,
it?
Don't specify what sort of technology it is, because I can't stand the ILIC here, Frontier. They're a terrible company that's going to get federal subsidy for having a phone line that we make them put in there and all that. Let's just say they have to have some way to contact emergency services. All that is a cell phone. It doesn't even have to be active. You can call 911 on any cell phone that actually still works.
Okay. All right. I will do that also. Okay.
I
Thank
just
you
have
for
strong
listening.
feelings about incoming telephone companies, very strong feelings.
Got it, Nate. Thank you.
So can I just ask, is the goal to get this put in place yet this spring? And the only reason I ask is because if I'm the one who's collecting these applications and issuing these licenses, this takes place at the same time that liquor licenses come due. So I just want to prepare myself.
Well, I
My-
originally had it on, a January 1st to December 31st. And I think Bo had suggested that we followed the liquor license. And the reason why I didn't do that is because that's so much work at that time that I didn't think that the licensing period, should also be in that same time frame. So if we deem it to be something different because
Well,
of,
I'm sorry, I don't disagree that it takes place at that time. It's just that because I'm not sure how people are going to be notified this first year, it could get to be a bit of a mess come April when liquor licenses are coming in and then all of this stuff is coming in. And I understand why it's being done on that licensing year, which gives people time to register with DATCAP and the Tourism Zone Commission, because that's their calendar as well. So I'm curious about this being the first year of it and the many questions and pushback we're going to get from the people who have to, now fill out these applications and get permitted.
My biggest concern about this, my absolutely largest concern about it is staffing and the impact it's going to have on staff. And that would be, if I come out against it, that would almost certainly be the biggest reason why, just to see what it actually is going to impact on staff. And we need to make sure we do this well, that we don't rush into this. I'm not saying we can't get it done in that time frame, but the impact on staff is really big in my head on this one.
Well, and we should take that into account again in coming up with the fee.
Absolutely, Pat.
I don't know if you were on one of the committees where we're talking about fees. I just said anything less than $20 is $20 because it doesn't pay to collect less than $20. Now, you think you were on there, Denise?
mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, we'll bring it back.
Okay. Thank you, Denise.
Thank
Item
you.
number Item number 14, discussion regarding the draft of ordinance number 289 XXXX22 that annexes lands that are currently located within the boundaries of the town of Liberty Grove, Wisconsin to the village of Sister Bay. Consider a motion to refer the matter to the Plan Commission. As detailed in our packet, it's the board's responsibility to send this to Plan. Heidi, is there anything you'd like to add?
I called Randy to ask why we hadn't done anything with this. It would have been great if we could have had this done with the when redistricting happened, so that it would have been counted as part of Sister Bay for the next 10 years. But he said there really was no reason to delay. So the next step is just to send it to Plan Commission to address those temporary zoning designations.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion regarding resolution number 479-121-42021, adopting the payment in lieu of benefits policy. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha?
Again, this is a policy we've been discussing now for a couple of years, really. So it's my recommendation that you approve this opt-out policy as it's written. Health insurance costs have risen over the last couple of years, so this is an effort to keep those health insurance costs down. In order to save funds, all we need is one employee to go take their dependents or take their spouse's health insurance or their parents' health insurance or something else, and that will save the village some money. This is something that is offered at a number of other municipalities and is something that we have been asked about during recruitment. So how this would work is that the employee who chooses their spouse's coverage or their parents' coverage or other coverage would be eligible to be paid 50% of the village's savings. And I did some calculations on the board report for you, so you can see that. Right now, we have about 2 employees that I would expect that would sign up for this program in 2022. For other employees, they're going to have to wait until 2023 because the benefit window is already closed. I would expect that at least one more employee will look at this, definitely look at it and consider it. Whether they actually move or not, that it depends obviously on what their their other options are. So I'll take any questions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Tasha.
Thank you.
Tasha. Item number 16, discussion regarding resolution number 480-121-42021, committing fund balance. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha?
Yep, that's me too. Let me scroll to that in my document here. So what we're looking at is the commitment of fund balance. We talked about this with the budget adoption that we did last month. GASB 54 requires us to specify how we're going to carry our fund balance, and if we're going to commit it for a specific project, like for the fire station siding or our other projects that we have talked about, we need to actually do a resolution to commit it. We would also need to do a resolution once we choose to release these funds. So that would be coming in our near future. This does not change anything from budget. We'd still end up within our target range for unassigned fund balance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 17, discussion regarding resolution number 481-121-42021, amending the 2021 Village of Sister Bay annual budget. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Tasha?
Okay, so this is a fairly short budget amendment resolution. This affects both the wastewater fund and the capital projects fund. These are things that popped up throughout the year that were unusual. One being the purchase of the Wiltsey property, and also in the wastewater fund, talking about those unplanned non-operating expenses related to the settlement of the Liberty Grove lawsuit.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Tasha, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Item number 18, review of the financial statements and consideration of a motion to approve the monthly bills.
This is when I get to mute, right?
Yeah. I didn't call you today, Tasha. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So it was an exceptional day. Are we still paying for an administrator's phone for $100 a month?
We do.
Okay.
Yep. We're keeping
Okay.
that phone available for us. Yeah.
Okay. And on page 265, Door County Highway Department street maintenance, $14,185. Are we paying a bill for road work, or what was that street maintenance?
Yep, that was for a lot of prep work for streets for next year, but they could prep.
Oh,
in the winter.
okay. Okay,
Or-
excellent. On page 267, almost $800 to K Park Recreation for memorial bench frames only. Are we having a lot of people pick up benches with the frames that we're ordering more? Because
That's
I'm-
actually only 2 sets of frames for the 2 benches that are going to be built this winter.
wow. Okay, 2. Okay. And also on that same page, Robert E. Lee, O&M manual updates, $3,900.
That's related to the treatment plant, and that's part of the planned engineering expense.
Okay. All right. 268 Office Depot Business Marina Toner, $267. I realize. Do they have just a small inkjet copier, or do they have a big copier?
No, they don't have a big copier. They have a small desktop copier. Half your
Okay.
printer.
And the reason, because I finally bought a really nice, I think it's a Canon, I can't remember no, it's a Brother, for $600. And, you know, there's no ink cartridges, it's the big drums. They last for thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. Do they not have room for something of that? I mean, it still sits on top of a desk, it's large, but just,
Yeah, I don't know much about their printer, I guess. I know it is fairly good sized. But maybe that's something I can refer to Dave.
okay. All right.
It is a Brother.
Only because I just went through it also, did it make me, you know, think about that. And on page 270, HydroCorp, commercial cross connection inspections. I know that we had hired them. Are they getting down to the wire of all, everybody that they needed to inspect? Do we know, or is this going on for another year or two?
I know this is an ongoing cost. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
It's just an ongoing, continuous process as long as we want to continue using them.
But once they hit everybody, aren't they done?
Any of the larger commercial properties, it's just a continual list. Every 2 years, they have to be inspected, re-inspected.
Oh, reinspect, okay, got it. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just one question, Heidi, from me on page 271. Under the Mobile One Inc., I believe that's all fuel. Shuttle bus, $347.13.
Yep.
Does the village pay all of the gas fees associated with SBAA operating the shuttle bus?
Yes, it's our bus. We pay all of the fees, all of the fees,
Okay.
fees, the employee expenses, everything.
Okay.
Great deal.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
They're running premium, right? They should be running premium in there.
I think it's a worthy use of village funds.
Any other questions on bills? Okay.
Thank you, Tasha. I will motion that we approve the monthly bills as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 1, report on village activities by the village president. The one thing I just want to mention as a clarifier for all trustees, if you were not previously aware of it, there's been a lot of village employee man hours devoted to the 3 weekends of the Chris Kindle non-village event, the holiday market. Quite frankly, most, if not all of those village employee man hours stemmed from the promoter and the contractor of the event not having the means to accomplish those things. Parks does have the lead on an expense analysis, and we have received some feedback that the promoter apparently understands, that we'll be assessing, charging them back for all those village man hours. So I just wanted everyone to be aware. We'll be conducting that expense analysis, and that'll take place at Parks. Item number 20, discussion regarding and confirmation of the village president's recommended citizen committee and commission appointments. I have only one this evening. I am offering for confirmation to the Plan Commission, Ron Kane.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. And committee reports. Administrative Committee has nothing to report at this time. Communication and Technology Committee.
Has not met.
Okay, coastal byways,
They're continuing to work on updating their website. That's pretty much it.
DCEDC,
Meets next Monday.
Emergency Management Plan Committee.
We're never going to meet because the pandemic will never be over.
Okay.
It will be over soon, Denise. Just change your definition of soon. It's a relative thing.
Thank you,
Geologic
Nate.
terms, soon.
Finance,
No meeting that I know of.
Pat, Fire Commission, Fire Board.
So fire did have a meeting where there were a lot of things, and these are mainly updates, but we wanted to get it to the full board. The first is excess room tax funds. So Liberty Grove, we have a joint fire department, as we all know. Liberty Grove has pledged 10% of the additional room tax funds that we're going to start to get whenever we get them, to increase the fire department for primarily CIP funds, and they're wondering if the village would be willing to also do that. What that means is the village only bears 1/3 of the fire budget. So this 10% to the town would be about 13,000, which would mean about 6,500 if the village were to do this. To me, it's somewhat, you could, if people have issue with this, let the town know we will match that. And if there was an adjustment to be made on our annual contributions that the village makes towards our CIP, we could do it that way. But that way, at least the town feels like we're doing the same thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. We put in on many years, tens of thousands into the CIP for these larger trucks that they need. So the idea of saying, yeah, okay, here's $6,500 isn't a big deal to me, but I just want you to know that's a request that maybe we need to talk about at a future meeting.
I guess some thoughts I'd have on that is let's fund the fire department with what the fire department is asking for. And I think that to interconnect this room tax with the fire department doesn't make any sense. If they need the money, they should come to us and we should fund them. I don't like the linkage there. That's my feelings.
I wholeheartedly agree.
And that's fine. Their point was, with more tourists comes more demand on the fire department. We can just say, then fine, then just have the fire department come, so that's what we want to do. That's what we can do. I'm
not opposed to giving the fire department $6,500, but let's have Chris come up and say, hey, this is what we need the money for, instead of we're just going to give you $6,500.
Right. Well, and Chris's point was, the way he sees it is he wouldn't take it to try to find ways to spend it. It would go to CIP, which is one of the next things. So you got the report from the consultant. Those that heard his thing is to try to space out these purchases. This engine 8 should be replaced sooner than later. And right now they're on like a 2-year ordering process because of the supply chain and pandemic and everything else. So the fire board asked Chief Hecht to seek proposals for a new engine. It'll take probably 30 to 60 days for him to get these proposals, at which time, probably this next spring, he'll be coming back to us saying, here's what the price tag is. And the estimate from the consultant was $1.2 to $1.3 million. So the $6,500 is arbitrary when you're talking those kind of numbers.
I guess I still say that the revenue side should not dictate what the expenditure side is. I think that we need to fund the vehicles that Chris needs. We need to fund our fire department. I just don't think the linkage is a great idea.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, and maybe I'll with these other two, I'm just going to mention that I'm not necessarily looking to create discussion. These are information from a meeting. And if we felt like it warrants discussion, we should put it on a future agenda. But the Another thing is the disposition of prepayment funds from the new rescue purchase. So we prepaid for a truck before we got it. We're now getting money back, both the town and the village. It's $45,000 roughly. 1/3 of which is funded by the village, so about 15,000. The fire board said, hey, we're going to have another $1 million plus vehicle coming up that you're going to use that for that. Just keep it to put toward that. Unless the board has a problem with this, the fire board would like to just hang on to it and earmarked for the next vehicle. And I guess maybe we can't vote or anything on that, but I'm just letting you know, if somebody feels like, hey, that should be an agenda item for a next meeting, we can do that. And let's just say no issue, I guess.
And also that they had also mentioning that they would defer to the new auditor on how to log that held money and specifically what it's for.
Okay. So then the last thing is the disposition of the old rescue. So we got the new one. Now we can get rid of the old one. The old one was not paid for by tax dollars, citizen dollars. It was paid for by the fire association. For those of you who don't know, our fire association has donated hundreds of thousands of dollars and is going to be donating $100,000 worth of gear just in 2022. So they would like to, whatever funds are gotten from the sale of the old truck, they would like to give back to the fire association. They paid for it, give it back to them. They're only going to give it back to us for something else in the future. So again, just an FYI, Chris said this is the fire board's ability to do this, but again, unless somebody feels big opposition, it's more just informational.
Thank you, Pat.
Yep.
Ad hoc Friends of Pebble Beach, Chad is not here. Green Tier Legacy Committee, we did meet, had a substantive meeting. Highlights as follows: the committee is now accessing the DNR's quarterly Green Tier member meetings. We've begun work on the sustainability score sheet that is very thorough and due roughly a year from now. We spent over an hour last meeting on a review of the initial village status on where we're at on the score sheet on just about a quarter of it. It's a very lengthy, detailed process, and everyone is enthused going through it. Historical Society.
Rob, I
Yes.
had a couple of comments on Green Tier.
Okay.
About your minutes on page 276, line 41. Number 7, is there a possibility of installing electric vehicle charging stations by the dog park if the parking lot were there to be paved? I believe I read somewhere that the GOP legislature passed a bill that does not allow government entities to do that on their own. Did anybody else read that?
That bill is still moving through the process, so it hasn't been finalized yet.
Oh, it hasn't been finalized. Thank you, Heidi. Okay.
That comment was in relation to a Wall Street Journal article on the growing prevalence of let's move towards charging stations. That was a topic of discussion in the Green Tier meeting packet. And that, as noted in the minutes that you referenced, drove further discussion to say charging stations in general is a separate topic for another meeting.
Okay. Then also on page 277, item number 12, Smythe shared that the Village of Sister Bay can be seen at night from Newport State Park, which is a dark sky initiative site. She requested that the wattage of street lighting be investigated and whether it can be reduced at night. Do we know specifically? I know that you can see scanned lights down Highway 57, or if the ice rink is open, and I think they close those down somewhere between 10 and 11. Are those the two culprits, or is there something else going on?
This is a accurate reflection in the minutes of a minor comment of something in broad scope, big picture to be looked at as things move down the line. This was not an issue that came forward of, there's a dramatic problem right now. This was a way for Mary to highlight, to my recollection, to highlight the type of scope of things to consider as we move forward with the score sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Scott, Historical Society?
We did meet on the 2nd. It was mainly a meeting to tweak things as far as the market. Not much was said there. The first 2 weekends, revenue was close to $70,000. I do not have the numbers yet on what the 3rd weekend was, but it was obviously very successful. A lot of positive comments. So this looks like we'll be continuing next year.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Scott,
Yes.
a couple of questions, if that's all right, Rob.
Absolutely.
So the first 2 weekends, $70,000 each weekend or total?
Total.
Okay, total.
I think it
And
was something like 37 and 31 or something like that.
okay. And how did I know the Historical Society was selling a few items there, but the bulk of the money that the Historical Society is making had to do with the renting of the space. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And was that $200 per weekend, per day? What was that rate?
That was 250. I think that was the weekend, 250 the weekend.
Okay. And so do you have a tally on what the Historical Society took in?
I do not have those numbers yet.
Okay, all right.
Are
So it
they
was
getting any
250.
percentage? Oh, sorry.
So if somebody wanted to be there all 3 weekends, then it was 250 each time. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry, Pat.
I was just going to say, I think for some events, like when the village will run other things, there's a percentage of sales that goes to the village or the host. Is Historical Society getting anything as part of that 70 beyond the rental of the space?
Well, out of that 70, of course, is going to be the cost of doing the business. That's still got to come out of there. But yeah, the Historical Society will be getting money.
Oh, that 70,000 is what? That's the Historical Society's portion?
No,
Or
that
that's
was
total
the
sales.
first 2 weekends. That's the incoming.
Oh,
Okay.
for the
We've got things to pay yet out of that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. After the 2nd weekend, I think they were looking at somewhere around 35 that they would realize. So yeah, doing historical.
Good.
The other thing, Scott, I'm not sure if you're aware, but to follow up on Denise's point, I don't recall hearing clarification whether it was required of vendors to sign up in advance for all 3 weekends, or if they could pick and choose weekends. If we could just clarify that, that might be in terms of the whole financial spectrum. I recall one person at the beginning of this that was contemplating signing up and was weary of the 3-week commitment. So I don't know if that's something that they were interpreting properly, if it's a condition that held forth, but we should probably just verify that too.
Well, there was a number of them that commented that signed me up for next year because they made a lot more money than they thought.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Ad hoc Land Acquisition Committee, Chad is not here. Library Commission, Vivian?
There were minutes in the packet. We extended offers to candidates for both the treasurer and the building manager clerk. The treasurer has actually already started training. And the candidate we offered, the building manager clerk position, declined. So as of January, we'll be reposting that job. Numbers are good as far as the librarians report. Our library's doing great.
Thank you, Vivian. Pat, Marina Committee?
Well, there's minutes in the packet were, shut down. So now it's more projects that are getting done when it's not busy and open.
I had a
Scott,
question, Rob.
Sure, Denise.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So on page 287 of the minutes, on line 22, Dave proposes allowing only a limited number of reservations be made by anyone when the reservation system opens on January 1st, et cetera. It doesn't say in the minutes how many that is. Was there a determination? Is there a policy? Is this an unwritten rule?
So, and without trying to get too much out in public, the marina was taken advantage of this past year with people basically making reservations potentially for every weekend of the summer and then just canceling them days ahead of time, creating issue with re-renting and moving things around. And so we said, well, that you were making extra work and that's not fair on anybody, including other people trying to make sincere reservations. Right. So it was going to be like a handful. You're going to get 3 to 5 reservations. And then if at some point there's a lot of excess, we'll open it up for more. But we're needing to make some changes to ferret out some people that kind of took advantage of a generous system.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Scott, Marina Fest?
Marina Fest, we met on the 18th. It was rather somewhat of a disappointing weekend, weather, and then COVID with canceling of the bands and things like that. Minutes are here in the packet. Everybody gave their 2 cents worth of how they did. One thing we want to look forward to, or look to next year, we're going to have some discussion on freshening up some of the events or some of the attendees and vendors and things, just to kind of freshen up Marina Fest.
Thank you, Scott. Parks, Properties and Streets. For those of you who were not aware, it's been approved that there'll be a 1-day pond hockey tournament at the ice rink on Saturday, February 12th. The rink will be essentially closed for setup on Friday, February 11th. And the event organizers will be supplying the volunteers who will take care of anything related to excess work needed to make sure the ice surface is not just ready for the tournament, but ready for public skating the next day.
Don't
Rob,
forget
have you
about the
told them that-
cash, Rob.
Yep. Go ahead, Denise. Go ahead.
Don't forget about telling them about the cash.
From the sales of,
No, the $1,000 that they're going to give to the village for using it.
right, yeah, and that, yes, and there will be, after some discussion back and forth about how to increase opportunities for vending with various community-wide organizations discussed and considered, SBAA will be handling the beverage sales, and internally Cody and his team will spruce up the snack shack so that the village revenue is being driven by the concessions there in the warming station.
I was gonna ask you, Rob, do they know there's not a pond there?
Well, I was going to say, barring any continuance of fall, spring, But yeah, no, as of right now, this is all obviously dependent on whether they can make ice there.
I think we should just not reveal to them till the day of that there's not actually a pond there, so they can keep calling it this tournament.
Well, if it's thawing, then there is actually a pond there and that's not good,
Right.
so.
Yeah. All right. Personnel Committee, Pat,
Minutes in the packet?
Plan Commission, Denise, anything further?
Good luck, or we've been meeting so often. I think there's 4 sets of minutes. Does anybody have any questions?
It's been
Nope.
fun.
That is one word for it.
Thank you, Denise, again, for your stellar leadership and commitment on that. SBAA FYI monthly meetings will shift to the second Thursday each month, beginning in January, rather than the historical first Thursday. Tourism zone. One thing interesting to mention and to discuss with you. The meeting of the tourism zone on November 18th was the first opportunity for the new CEO, Julie Gilbert, to address the committee. A couple statements that she made in her opening presentation that I immediately made note of were, quote, the focus on the number of visitors and the amount of spending has to change. She also stressed, quote, sustainability and easing the burden of over-tourism. That being in direct contrast to what had been discussed and what is now printed in the DDC marketing plan that we got a copy of, page 349 of the packet, where, you know, one of their main action steps is to enhance Door County's destination appeal by increasing shoulder season visits. And that the number one key measurable is the monitoring and evaluating of the shoulder season. So the question that I posed to Julie was, considering that it was new and fresh to hear, focusing on the number of visitors and to ease the burden of over tourism, when you line that up with the continued focus on marketing the shoulder seasons, for instance, and I referenced at that point in time of the meeting, I had phone messages to return from various people that were concerned that the Chris Kindle market was going to cause a bunch of traffic backup and what was going to happen because of that. And my question to Julie was, if we continue to focus and measure, and in essence, from a DDC level, demand that the shoulder season be even further developed, how do we answer to residents or citizens who would say, you know, overburden of tourism means you're taking my downtime away, in essence, when the season used to be over and there was a little bit of time when we could have, quote unquote, an off season. Julie's answer to that was a way in which the DDC could get involved in a type of event such as that. Chris Kindle Market would be, or something similar would be, to do an assessment and a technological monitoring of how many of the license plates were from out of state, where the traffic was coming from, and how traffic patterns might be diverted. I reference all that because I think that's going to be something interesting to watch as we move forward. If you know, how the easing of the burden of over tourism would happen if we're going to continue to try and turn the shoulder seasons into more of the tourist season. MOU committee has not met. Utilities has not met. Youth Center has not met. We're engaging in discussions related to filling the vacancy on the committee with Maluska's departure.
do we want a motion, Janelle, to approve the committee reports?
Yeah,
I will make that motion.
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried. Item number 22, consider a motion to convene into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C to consider employment promotions, compensations, performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Wisconsin statutes 19.851E to deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conduct other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and Wisconsin statute 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. In specifics, discussion regarding the search for a village administrator, legal services, discussion regarding what will be done with the outlot that contains the retention pond on the Stony Ridge property, discussion regarding village-owned lots, and a discussion on appointed election officials.
At 8 p.m., I will motion that we move into closed session.
Second.
Second by Bell, and starting roll call. Zashki, yes.
Baker, yes.
Hell, yes.
Berto, yes.
Duffy, yes.
Nino, yes.
Okay, at 8:01 p.m., we are now in closed session.